I'm so crazy, but we're just going green. People think we're so crazy, but we're just going green. People think that we're so crazy, we're just going green. People think that we're so crazy, we're just going green.
And a very good afternoon, Phuket. Hope you're having a fun day, getting out on the beach, enjoying what are slightly simmered seas, making it a little safer, but do be very careful. Yesterday, another 3 surfers actually pulled out of Surin Beach, did get into trouble. Also, a number of swimmers. In Lam Sing the day before, there was, in fact, I believe, 2 people that got into trouble, and at least 1, unfortunately, passed away. That was on Thursday. So it's been a very dangerous week for surf. And just a reminder from the station that if you are swimming and you're caught in a rip and you have that unfortunate feeling of losing the legs underneath you from the sand, knowing you're being pulled out, you can't fight it because the water is simply far too strong. So you have to turn around with your head facing out to the ocean, and you have to swim out, and you have to go to the side. So you get to the side of the rip, and then you can go around it and you can come back in on the side. But that's the only way to get out of a rip. Unfortunately, people that get caught in them fight it, and that's the wrong way to approach it. We're on show number 78 this afternoon, and we've got a good show lined up for you. I'm going to be talking principally just now about a new website. It's an online resource that's just been launched this last week called Creative for Good. It's an online resource that gives public access to a repository of best practice campaigns, which used creatively for social change. Exactly some of the things we've been doing here on Phuket with the local NGO Seek. Seek have had a very good week in terms of formation of green clubs again, and in the second I'll be talking about some new developments. I also had a meeting with Sansiri this morning, big property developer. It's also doing a project in Macau, and they're very pleased to get involved, and with Sean Panton and the Jedwi Marriott will be setting up a Macau Green Club. That'll also help with effectively full-time cleaning along the beach. Okay, the website has just been set up. It's the aim is specifically to address a misconception that a conversation that started at the World Economic Forum a couple of years ago was in fact not being addressed the right way, and in fact they turned it around and thought, how can society harness its creative power to positively influence human behavior, largely on the back of stalling international climate change talks and the realization that communities and business have a responsibility to change. So this last week they launched this website, Creative for Good, and it's a very interesting resource. It brings together creative industry types from around the world, and they showcase best practice campaigns targeting social issues. The process of building the resource itself was testament to how the industry came together in an altruistic, non-commercial way. The first to do was to help NGOs and other organizations wishing to promote a social issue, let's say plastic bags, or perhaps welfare, or pollution in a particular place. It could be a first resource they use as a how-to guide. It's like a best practice platform, and it's a database of like-minded agencies to help them with their project. The second goal was to provide a platform to showcase the power of the communications industry for social good. The US Ad Council has been creating public service campaigns since 1942, and it's very well known for campaigns such as I'm an American to promote diversity, Friends Don't Let Friends Drive Drunk, which was a very strong campaign to promote safe driving, and it's therefore well placed to bring leadership to this tool, which targets a global audience. The result was an overwhelming example of creativity for the public good. Submissions poured in from all over the world, and it was challenging for the advisory and judging committee to choose a few to share on the Creative for Good platform. The messages were all powerful, regardless of where they came from and which issue they were addressing. For some, it was a campaign urging people to ring the doorbell when they suspect domestic violence. One was asking Colombians to send Christmas letters to their loved ones, asking them to demobilize from the FARC. These campaigns were as creative as they were effective. If each individual, industry, and organization could use its core strengths, its areas of influence, and its power to deliver a public good, regardless of what these strengths are, then I'm sure, and we are all confident, that we can and should help each other to improve the state of the world. This is Nick Anthony, show number 78. Stay tuned. We'll be talking about a few examples that this website and this campaign has thrown up. Well done to those guys. Nick Anthony, Going Green.
With the issues that matter to the island, the environment, and the planet, this is Going Green with Nick Anthony on Live 89.5.
Welcome back to the Going Green Show. Hope you're having a great Saturday afternoon. I can see a trend with my music this afternoon. It was, of course, Bruce Hornsby with It's Just the Way It Is, and we've all heard that from those above. And, of course, Brian Ferry with Let's Stick Together, and that came hot on the heels of Bob Marley, One Love. Of course, it is about sticking together, and it's about making change. And we've been discussing a website that was launched last week in response to a panel discussion at the World Economic Forum in Davos. And the result was international competition, effectively, to ask people to send in their ideas on creating these advertising and PR campaigns around change. One of those, which was in Russia, was called Green Vision, Child Made. The essence of this particular project was environmental education via social advertising. The project was unique because children created it. It focused on positive, humorous, and constructive approaches to ecology rather than the typical gloomy and even catastrophic visions. The project's success is reflected in its growth. Only 200 people saw the first experimental movies filmed in 2010. Videos shot in 2012 won awards in Russian and international festivals and were broadcast on TV and on social networks. The project will be repeated in other Russian regions. What started as a local experiment, the campaign has now become an all-Russian project in less than 2 years. There was no other time in Russia when environmental education was so popular among children. The key to success lay in a humorous and positive attitude toward issues and also in a universal interest in the magic of cinema. That's an article that was written by Diana El Azhar, who's an Associate Director of Media and Entertainment at the World Economic Forum, and it was printed courtesy of the Huffington Post. You can check out anything from today's show, any of the articles, any of the links, any of the websites, by going to myseek.org, and at the top of that front page is a link where you can see the radio show, and indeed it's all there. Also, we do webcasts or podcasts of this show. You can go to the Phuket News website, click through to the radio, and indeed look up the archive section. Okay, I'm going to take a break for a second, come back and talk then about the Dalai Lama, who actually recently spoke about a new global ethical code. Very interesting as only a Dalai Lama could be. Very poignant, and particularly in today's environment of what's happening.
This is Going Green on Live 89.5.
Welcome back to the Going Green Show. Okay, Dalai Lama this last week had some relatively strong words to say on the back of a comment that he made back in September last year on his Facebook page, where he said that grounding ethics and religion is no longer adequate, and that religion alone cannot foster values such as integrity and compassion. Since that time, the Tibetan Buddhist leader has taken his somewhat surprising message on the road and is now calling for a global system of secular ethics. Speaking at the recently concluded Mind and Life conference in India, the Dalai Lama told attendees that a new global ethical code would be of benefit to everyone, including people who don't follow any particular religion. He said that the new ethics should incorporate the diverse set of values that people of various beliefs hold in common. This is a report written by a lady called Calden Lodo, who was part of the Radio Free team at the event. They wanted to report that the Dalai Lama said that the reason for this is that there are those who have faith in religions, and there are many who don't. There are some who are responsible for injustice, deception, hypocrisy, and exploitation. Current education, he said, is almost always geared towards economic development, which neither helps solve individual mental problems nor society-level problems. Regardless of what or whether one believes in any religion, the practice of ethical conduct is an urgent, direct need in today's world. He noted that based on dialogues with scientists, it has been proven that being compassionate and kind-hearted is not exclusively connected to religion. Encouraged by the significant number of scientists attending the conference, a group consisting primarily of psychologists and neuroscientists, the Dalai Lama said that this has turned out to be very productive in promoting mutual understanding of each other's positions, and I'm confident of further progress if we continue in this way. Wilson Hurley, who's a translator of Tibetan texts, said that the Dalai Lama's proposal ultimately boils down to psychological principles. He elaborated that the core principle is that everyone is completely equal in wanting to be happy, not wanting to suffer, wanting to be respected, and not wanting to be put down. If that's honored, then people thrive and move forward. Adding that His Holiness, the Dalai Lama, says that there's nobody who doesn't appreciate being valued and loved. And for people who are able to live that way and raise their kids that way, and for societies that are able to cultivate that in their people, there's a power there. It's a very powerful force. Speaking to Pico Iyer in a recent interview, the Dalai Lama elaborated on his association with modern science, saying, "My engagement with science is in these four fields: cosmobiology, microbiology, quantum physics, and psychology," adding that peace of mind is really important for the health of the body. He also told Iyer about the importance of the separation of church and state, highlighting India's long tradition of secularism. That's the Dalai Lama speaking at a recent conference in India called Mind and Life. Do stay tuned. This is Nick Anthony. We'll be back with some more green news in just a moment.
This is Going Green with Nick Anthony on Live 89.5.
And welcome back. Good afternoon. Let's take a look at what's happening over in Singapore. Just across our border. Their pollution standard index yesterday, the PSI, tipped the scales at 401. It's the highest ever recorded, and the government's warned that the lingering haze could in fact last for weeks. The National Environment Agency warned the elderly, pregnant, women, children, and those with heart and lung conditions to remain indoors as the index hit that historic high. An index reading above 300 is defined as hazardous and is regarded as potentially life-threatening to the ill and the elderly. Apparently, Singapore's Prime Minister Lee Hsien Loong warned residents angry about the smoke wafting in from Indonesia that they may have to learn to live with it for now. We can't tell how this problem is going to develop because it depends on the burning, it depends on the weather, and it depends on the wind, he told a press conference on Thursday. It can easily last for several weeks, and quite possibly it could last longer until the dry season ends in Sumatra, which may be September or October. The Straits Times reported that queues had formed outside pharmacies across the island on Friday morning, and that many had sold out of the particulate filtering N95 respiratory masks within minutes. While schools remain closed in Singapore for the summer break, more than 300 were shut temporarily in nearby Malaysia due to the haze. Many office workers in the city-state, meanwhile, struggled to get to work through the haze-shrouded CBD. Someone said it looks like footage of London smog in the 1950s, except that it smells like a day-old hearth. It smells like burning, said a Singapore resident, and indeed is very, very negative. Well, of course, the slash-and-burn techniques being used in Indonesia is the cheapest land-clearing method to create palm oil in Indonesia, and it's not only used by local farmers, but also employees of these palm oil investors, including Singaporean and Malaysian companies, an Indonesian forestry ministry said. 3 Singaporean palm oil companies with land concessions in Indonesia actually stated that they have zero burning policies and that they used only mechanical means to clear the land. Apparently Singapore has said that the city-state had provided satellite data to Indonesia to help identify who was responsible for these fires. Now, every year we do tend to also get it here on Phuket. You'll notice, particularly if you've got something white outside, a sheet sometimes, or a white car, you do get dust filaments. That's also coming from Indonesia. Currently, our winds and the balance of the storm is bringing the wind from the southwest, and we will only have a real issue when it blows from a more southerly direction. But around this time of the year, you tend to start to lose your horizons. When you look out to the sea, you'll see that it's fairly cloudy and you can't really quite see the horizon. At the moment you can because of this westerly wind, but with the haze, we'll end up with much lower visibility. But good news for us right now, we've got fresh air, and we do welcome our friends from Singapore who are coming to escape what must be a very unfortunate and terrible place to be in right now.
This is Going Green with Nick Anthony on Live 89.5.
Welcome back, Going Green, show number 78. Hope you're having a great afternoon. It is pretty out there today, some sun. The wind has dropped off, and hopefully we're not going to see any rain until at least this evening. But do take care tomorrow morning in particular. A storm is expected to blow through early and should be fine by the afternoon. Some good news from one of our regional neighbours this week, where Brunei banned shark's fins. With the consent of His Majesty the Sultan, the government, through the Department of Fisheries, Ministry of Industry and Primary Resources, will enforce the ban on the catch and landings of all shark species from Brunei's waters and thus cease the sale of any related products in the domestic market. Furthermore, the government's also now officially going to enforce the ban on the importation and trade of sharks products, which has already been in place since 2012. These measures, the government says, are probably the world's first commitment by any country. The rationale is that firstly, our concern on food security, and secondly, the environmental consideration. The minister said sharks are targeted for their fins only, whereas the rest of the body are discarded back to the sea, most of the time barely breathing, still to die. He reminded the audience that sharks occupy an important hierarchy in the marine food web as higher predators in the marine environment, and that any alteration of the level will inevitably result in the disturbance of the existing balance of nature and the marine food web. The ban supports the international bodies such as the Convention on International Trade in Endangered Species, that's CITES, at the recently concluded 16th Conference of Parties in Bangkok, which we talked about a couple of months ago. More shark species were listed under the IUCN's website as vulnerable, endangered and threatened. The minister believes the impact from the ban would decrease the fishing pressure towards the shark resource, especially in Brunei and in international waters, while more importantly safeguard the nation's overall fisheries resources to be in a preserved state in the future. Good news. The event marks the 12th Celebrate the Sea Festival, which Brunei, with more than 41,000 square meters of majestic ocean and marine biodiversity, is a home for more than 400 coral species and a diversity of 670 species of fish and other marine animals. Very good news to Borneo. Now, speaking of shark's fin trading, on the 27th, here at the end of the week, we'll be having a shark's fin, a free fin event where we're celebrating hotels that are indeed banning shark's fin off the menu. Many hotels on Phuket don't have it anyway, but the event that we'll be hosting will be to celebrate those hotels that publicly now have stopped using shark's fin and to support a fin-free Thailand. And we are looking then to move that discussion beyond sharks and into sustainable seafood. Of course, a very different discussion, a bigger discussion, and something that's desperately needed here on our island. We need to know what we're eating.
Nick Anthony, caring about your island home. This is Going Green on Live 89.5.
A very good afternoon. Let's take a look at Bangkok. And in Bangkok news this week, the government has announced the second phase of its eco-car investment promotion, which is in order to maintain Thailand's position as the leading regional automobile producer. Take one look at the roads today, try and drive through central around Phuket town, and you can see why Thailand is indeed the regional automobile producer. Quality, price, and very affordable. Well, Industry Minister Prasert said an eco-car project committee will be set up by next week to work with automotive experts to draw up investment policies for small, environmentally friendly vehicles. The ministry will award the first eco-car production license in the second half of this year for production next year. Relaunching this project is part of the government's economic stimulus plan, similar to the first eco-car project, which was launched in 2007. He said the focus of the second phase will remain on energy saving, clean fuel, and international safety standards. I'd love to see more flex fuel vehicles join the project in order to replace much of the imported oil with ethanol. That would benefit not only the environment, but also sugarcane and cassava growers. The Board of Investment said 5 car makers, Mitsubishi, Honda, Toyota, Nissan and Suzuki, joined the first eco-car project in 2007, with combined annual capacity of 585,000 vehicles. The project drew foreign investment totaling 28 billion baht. In addition, BOI Secretary General Yudom Wong Wichai said the first phase created more than 12,000 jobs. Only 60,000 of the vehicles were made in 2010, but that number jumped last year in 2012 to 259,000. This year, 2013, it's expecting that the capacity will in fact make it to 430,000 this year, with all 5 makers running at full capacity. Meanwhile, the value of applications for BOI privileges rose by 70% year-on-year in the first 5 months to 565 billion baht. The total number of projects, nearly 1,000 projects, up from 700 odd last year, and services and utilities accounted for the biggest share by value. Very good news. Thai Eco-Car means more electric vehicles and indeed a push to decarbonize our Thai economy. Stay tuned. This is Nick Anthony. You're listening to Going Green.
With the issues that matter to the island, the environment, and the planet, this is Going Green with Nick Anthony on Live 89.5.
Hope you're having a great day out there. It's a nice one, so do try to get a swim in this evening before the sun goes down. Speaking of the sea, looking at this weekend's edition of the Phuket News, you can buy it on newsstands for 20 baht. It comes out on Friday afternoons. And on page 6, on the environment page, there's an article about our sea gypsies here on Phuket. In fact, they've roamed the seas off the Andaman coast for generations. But Thailand's sea gypsies say their traditional way of life is under threat, and their homes at risk from a tourism boom. The plight of the once nomadic hunter-gatherers highlights the growing pressures on marginalized indigenous people in a country seeing a surge in foreign visitors to a record 22 million people last year. The creation of protected marine parks, the depletion of fish stocks, and a construction frenzy are all making it increasingly hard for the kingdom's Chow Lei, or sea people, to maintain their age-old lifestyles. I must say, as a green crusader, you don't often see of some of the issues of things such as a creation of a marine natural park, and of course it does impact the traditional way of life that these people have led for many hundreds of years. There's apparently 12,000 Chow Lei in Thailand, comprising 3 different ethnic groups, the Moken, the Moklen, and the Urak Lawao. Their plight gained attention after the tsunami in 2004, put the spotlight on their afflicted coastal communities. That's on page 6 of the environment. Do buy yourselves a copy. Lots of great things in today's paper, including another good article on page number 10 on travel, written by our own Claire Connell, who went off to check out Tai Muang, actually one of my favourite places, and it's taken many years. Here we are, a decade since I've been going there for the press really to expose it and talk about it for what it is, and it's a beautiful area. It's of course just over the bridge. You drive over the bridge and then you drive north up into the beach township of Tai Muang, which is in Phang Nga province. It's on the way north about 30 minutes from Phuket. It's not very far. It was originally the last stop of the tin mine. That's what the Sarasan Bridge means. And that area in the north was home to many Chinese tin miners who migrated to the area during the industry's boom in the late 18th century. There is a couple of things of note up there. One in particular, which I enjoy visiting, is the Turtle Sanctuary in the Phang Nga Coastal Fisheries Research and Development Centre. If you're up that way, it's about 1 kilometre from the Tai Muang National Park HQ. That centre was set up in 1985 as a culture mollusk centre research station to produce cockle and oyster seeds and shrimp larvae, and then it was turned into a research centre in 2002 and operates now as a turtle rescue centre. That's always worthwhile checking out. She talks about the Sea Ranch Pizza Restaurant, well known, and various other places over there, including the Kokloy Market as a fun one on the weekend. So that's the Phuket News this weekend. Do pop out, grab a copy. We're going to leave you this afternoon with some great things for the weekend. Coming up after my show here at 5 p.m. with the Best of Breakfast with Sam and Kirsty. That'll take you from 5 till 7 p.m. Steve's on with Dance Anthems from 7 until 10 p.m. And then we have Saturday Night Fever from 10 until 12. So put on your silver shirts and get out and boogie. We have an overnight non-stop music till 10 a.m. Then we have Nick on with What's On at the weekend from 10 until 12 p.m. A little bit of Irish charm for you first thing. And then we have a different type of charm with Jason with the weekend brunch from 12 until 3. He plays some funky tunes. He'll tell you what's going on and also tell you where you can get a great late breakfast or brunch. Phuket News Radio replay 3 till 4. And then Andy Saunders with some quiet tunes every Sunday with his Easy Sunday. That's 4 till 6 p.m. Sunday Night Chill, 6 till 9. Wonderful jazz, very cool tunes. Set the music down, turn down the lights and enjoy the sunset. And then we've got a non-stop music show taking you through again to Monday morning. Can't believe it's that time of the month. It's already the 22nd of June. On the calendar ahead, on the 5th of July, this will be taking place at Outrigger, starting at around 1 in the afternoon. We have a meeting with all of the GMs on the island coming together in support of a fin-free Thailand. That's a sharks-free Phuket in specific. And the team will be coming down from Bangkok. The Vice Governor will be there making a headline discussion and introduction to this program. It's supported by Outrigger, which will be hosting the event in Laguna. Dusit and other Laguna hotels will be there. From the north, you'll have groups like the JW Marriott that have been big supporters of this and spearheading this campaign down here on Phuket. And, of course, representatives from SEEK will be there to answer questions about beach clubs, about litter and roadside cleaning, dengue fever, which I haven't actually talked about today, but the numbers have indeed increased dramatically this last week. The Public Health Ministry in Bangkok this week announced that it's going to push for the establishment of a dengue fever war room in all provinces. The move actually followed a dengue fever pandemic that's claimed over 50 lives this year in 2013, and as of June the 11th, 43,609 people have so far registered as having contracted dengue fever. So far, war rooms have been set up in only 26 of Thailand's 77 provinces. They say the number of dengue fever patients this year has jumped nearly 3.1 times compared with the same period last year. They also added the number of deaths has soared dramatically from 5 in 2012 to 50 in the first half of this year. So dengue fever is still an issue, particularly with health. We've seen an increase in roadside cleaning on Phuket, which is very positive in reducing the amount of plastic going down into the ocean when it rains, and by reducing plastic and garbage around the house, making sure there's no standing water, you do in fact diminish the mosquito growth. So be very careful with dengue fever if you're going out and about. Make sure you spray some mozzie spray on, and do keep your area clean. This is Nick Anthony. Do enjoy your Saturday evening wherever you are and whatever you're doing. Saturday afternoons, Going Green show 3 till 5 p.m. Do stay tuned and enjoy our show. And Nick Anthony signing out.